Welcome to the Coaching Coordinator Podcast. I've been getting a lot of messages on DMs about some of the in-season shows we typically have and where did they go and why are we running so many shows from the archive. So first of all, in most podcast feeds, you're only going to see the last 300 episodes, and most of our listeners have joined us in the last 2 years. That means you've missed out on a lot of great episodes in the first 2 years, so I'm bringing some of those back and re-airing those episodes. You may have also noticed a change in the branding that USA Football is no longer part of this. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, there were some changes at USA Football. I was fortunate enough to be able to take the podcast and move it forward on my own, and you're going to see some new sponsors here coming up soon, and we will be airing new episodes. We're going to have a relaunch here in November with new episodes. In the meantime, though, we're going to share some great things from our archives, and today is another great one from a great coach, a guy who I expect a lot from in his new position at Kentucky Wesleyan. That's head coach Craig Yeast. Coach Yeast played his college football at Kentucky and was on the first air raid offense installed there under Hal Mumme. When he graduated, Yeast was the all-time leader in career receptions in the history of the SEC. After being drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals in the fourth round of the 1999 draft, he spent time with the New York Jets, then finished his pro career with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He spent a year coaching high school football in Kentucky, then went on to be the receivers coach at Tiffin University from 2012 to 2014, and under his guidance, 3 receivers were named to the All-GLIAC team in his first season. He then went on to become a teacher and head football coach at Fremont Ross High School in Ohio, and from there he moved on to Franklin College and became the offensive coordinator. There, the Grizzlies produced the most prolific offense in NCAA Division III during Yeast's tenure as OC from 2016 to 2018. While there's heavy air raid influence in Coach's background, he balanced the offense in 2018 as the Grizzlies averaged 225 rushing and 333 yards passing. When this was recorded, the Grizzlies' offense led the Heartland Athletic Conference in yards per game, total passing, total offense, and scoring, and nationally, Franklin's offense finished top 5 in the NCAA Division III in total offense. They were first, passing offense first, and scoring offense fourth. Coach Yeast just completed his first year as the head coach in 2019, and I expect big things from Kentucky Wesleyan in the future because he's a bright teacher and coach and strong leader. Enjoy this podcast recorded after the Grizzlies' 2017 season where they led the nation in total offense and passing. We continue with our segment with the NCAA Leaders, and joining us today is a repeat performer on the podcast, the offensive coordinator at Franklin College, Coach Craig Yeast. Craig, it's great to have you here on the podcast again.
Appreciate it, man. It's always a pleasure to come on your show.
Coach, you guys did an outstanding job in 2017. You led the nation in passing offense. You led the nation in total offense. We can find you spread across a number of categories in the top 25. And obviously, you know, as we talked about just before we got going here, that's a testament to your players. But, you know, I really believe also that also is a testament to what you and your coaching staff are doing to put them in the right positions.
Yeah, you know, we do. We really do. We had some excellent players. I know our quarterback was first-team All-American, and we had several receivers and running backs and linemen that were, you know, all-conference guys. But at the end of the day, you know, when you got good players, it makes the job for us as coaches easier to do our jobs. And, you know, the guys that I work with on the offensive side of the ball, they do a phenomenal job of making my life easier while we're putting the game plans together and trying to put our players in position. So they're a pleasure to work with.
Well, Coach, let's talk about that game plan first and the process that goes into that, because obviously if you're going to be very effective in the passing game, you got to do a lot of things right. There's certainly a lot more moving parts than trying to run the football. So talk to us a little bit about the process for you and your coaches as you sit down at the beginning of a week and you start to look at what's going to be our game plan for this upcoming opponent.
Well, I think the first thing that we do is we sit down as an offensive staff and we'll watch the game or 2 or 3 in its entirety and what we're looking for in terms of the pass game. the first thing we're looking for is what are the coverages that we're going to see more often than not. And generally, I'm a firm believer that if a guy does one thing one year, and then you go back and you watch one game and he does that, and then another game he does that, generally a Tiger doesn't change his stripes. So we're looking at coverage. The next thing we're looking at is what is their who are their guys that are their dynamic dudes in terms of the pass rush? Who do we got to block? Who do we got to make sure that we block that guy? You know what I'm saying? Because everybody's got a guy. You got to block that guy. So we're looking for who's their best defensive lineman. And then from there, we're looking for matchups. I'm a big matchup guy, even though I love looking at coverages and what the linebackers and the secondaries are doing, what they're trying to take away. But I'm a firm believer that if I have a matchup or two that we can exploit, then we're going to look for those matchups and we're going to make sure within our offense, try to call those plays for those specific players to make plays against what we consider to be a matchup in our favor.
Coach, some of that is a little bit more on the science end, some of it is on the art end. How do you determine, obviously, when you're looking at your opponent versus someone else, that this is a matchup we want to exploit, that we have an advantage there? What are the things you see on film that tell you that?
Well, one thing that we do is we like for our receivers on the outside to be tall. So one thing that I look at is, okay, what are the size of the corners? The corners will tell me a lot. And then I look at, when I'm looking at other teams, I don't necessarily look at what other teams are doing. I'm more look at, can this corner run? Can that corner run? How big is that corner? Or if it's a linebacker on one of my slot guys that can run and can run routes, when are they putting him in position to cover? You know, those are the things that we look at. I don't necessarily look to see what the other offensive teams are doing. I'm just looking at size. I'm looking at speed. I'm looking at situations to where they put a particular guy on, like a linebacker or a safety that doesn't run as well, on one of my slot receivers that I feel like runs excellent routes and has good speed. You know, those are the things that I look at that gives us the opportunity to take advantage of mismatches that we feel are in our favor. So it's not necessarily scheme-wise when it comes to matchups. It's what do our guys do well that we think that they can't cover.
Right. And, Coach, when you start to identify some of those things, obviously it's going to get to scheme. And you spend a lot of time, obviously, preparing in the spring, preparing, you know, in the summer during camp, you know, in the month of August, and getting up to that first game and putting in your offense. So as you go from week to week, are you looking to try to stay true to what was installed in those, you know, times preseason, or are there tags, adjustments? You know, how do you balance that, the itch to be a schemer and say, hey, we could beat them with this, versus we need to do what we do?
We are a team that we take about 3 or 4 days and we install our offense. And I'm honestly, one thing that I tell our players, don't get bored with the simplicity of what we do offensively, but understand the minor details that you can take away from it every single day about knowing where you are. So when it comes to game planning, and we don't really change a lot of what we do. What we do is what we do. So what I do is, going into a game, the game plan for us, for the most part, really never changes. We're going to do what we do. We're going to take advantage of matchups, like I said, within our scheme. Now, every now and again, we'll take a play and we'll add just a slight variation or a tag or two. But for the most part, Keith, we don't deviate from what we do offensively. And I do believe that as a result of that, that is what makes us even more effective when it comes to running our offense, because our players know exactly what they're supposed to be doing against man, against any kind of zone. They know exactly where they're supposed to be because they're used to doing the same thing versus a ton of different looks over and over and over and over. And I believe that gives us the advantage, and that makes us very efficient offensively.
Coach, when you look at your concepts and how you build those, and there's all kinds of different ways that people do that today, what's your approach for, attacking a defense that maybe shows multiple coverage, or disguises their coverage well? Are you a team that looks at full field packages? Are you trying to package one thing on one side to beat this coverage with another on the other side, et cetera? Where do you guys exist in that realm?
Well, we kind of do a couple of different things. Like for our quick game passing, all of our quick game passing is like double concept plays. So if I call a particular concept on one side, say the right side, then the back side, which would be the left side, always has something different. And the reason why I do it that way is because I may call a play specifically for man coverage on the front side, but if the defense is dictating that they're definitely playing zone, that concept on the backside is usually a man or zone beater specifically. And our quarterbacks are taught, hey, if you come up to the line of scrimmage, you look left, middle, right, short, left, middle, right, deep. You don't like what you got on one side, you always got the other concept on the left or the backside or whatever people want to call it. When we do in our drop backs, most of our drop backs, well, all of our drop backs are full field concepts. We have particular reads that carry us from one side of the formation to the other, and it's all based on every play that we call is a man and a zone beater. So it's all really predicated on, if it's zone, this is what we're looking for right away. All right. If it's man, take that right away because you should have that matchup, and that's what we're looking for if they play man. But if they play zone, take what the defense gives you. I'm a big stickler on teaching our quarterbacks, don't be greedy. See what you see. Take what they give you, move the chains, be efficient, and let's move the ball down the field. When it's time for the big play will come. And all of our concepts, for the most part, especially in the drop back and in the play action, give us the opportunity to take shots if we get the right coverage, especially if we get man, because we feel like we have better matchups on the perimeter.
Procedurally, from his, progression, that perspective, what is it that takes him to that shot? How is he able to know, I'm going to have a guy open here and I can throw the ball deep and we have an explosive play?
Okay, like for example, if we're running our vertical pass game, like we call all go, where we have basically a man and a zone concept within that concept. Our players are taught, okay, if it's zone coverage, then the guys that are, for the most part, going to be in play here are the slots in the back. If it's man coverage, all right, now I want you to look outside and I want you to choose your best matchup. Now, sometimes that best matchup is on the outside, and sometimes to take the shot on all verticals is that matchup because we may have a safety or a linebacker on a slot. Mm-hmm. So really it's all about understanding what the play is, what the concept is, how many safeties do we have on top? Do we have two safeties? Do we have one safety? Do we have zero safeties? Are the corners in press? Are the corners playing off? Wait a minute. The corner's off, but there's one safety back. I mean, it's just all about understanding what concept we're running, what are they giving us defensively, and taking advantage of the opportunity when it presents itself. So that's pretty much where we are. I mean, that's the way I teach our quarterbacks. I mean, I try to get them in the room, and, I make them get on the board, and you got to tell me what this coverage is. Or we'll turn the film on, and I say, okay, tell me what the coverage is. Hey, coach, this looks like cover 4. All right, so I'll let the play run. Okay, it started out cover 4. Now what is it? Yeah, coach, they rolled a cover 3. Okay, good. That's what I wanted you to be able to see. And those are the type of things that, I get on the board and in the classroom and teach our quarterbacks, and it's all concept-based. And once they understand the coverage, then they can understand where they're supposed to go with the football within the concept of the play.
Coach, I know with the way you teach these guys, you probably got a room full of quarterbacks who can give you that information, who are great on the board, who are great in film. What makes that guy, he had an All-American this year. What is it that makes that guy be able to take that from all your teaching in the classroom and then really go out and execute at a high level on the field? Obviously, some of that is his talent, but what's the blend of the mental side versus the physical side, and what do you need to do to get the two functioning at a high level out on the field, especially on game day?
Well, the first thing is it's the preparation. All right. So first things, we come in, we sit down, we go over coverages, we go over different calls that what do you like for this week? What do you not like based on the coverage that we're seeing, based on the type of defense that we're playing. It may be a single high safety cover team. It may be a two high. They might be a blitz team, high blitz. We're looking at all of those things first. Then in practice, it's all about the repetitions. So what I try to do in practice is I try to give our quarterbacks within each practice multiple different looks for the same plays. For example, all right, so generally we get about 3 days of real preparation during the season. All right, so we got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which Monday we don't do a ton. So we got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday where we get reps. What I do is I design so many plays each day that is within our offense, and we don't deviate from it on a weekly basis. We do the same thing. So on Tuesdays, we may have a menu of plays, whether it be run game or pass game. So we're talking particularly pass game. So we may have 4 concepts that we're running for the most part in that whole practice. So what that gives me an opportunity to do is script our plays in a manner where our quarterbacks have ran that play about 10 times in practice, sometimes maybe more. But in those 10 reps that he gets, he may have 4 different looks that he has seen versus maybe 3 different zone coverages that we are not sure exactly which one they're going to play because the percentage of how they play a coverage is pretty close. And then he'll get some man looks out of that. Maybe it be 2-man, maybe it be 0-man, maybe it be single high man. So we give them multiple different looks. So then when we go back and practice and watch the film, and we can talk about, okay, so I'll ask questions like, why didn't you throw it to this guy? It's zone coverage. He's open. Why didn't you throw it? And then I want to hear him tell me, well, I saw the linebacker sitting right there, and he took one step, so I felt like I could throw the dig in behind it. Okay, that's all I wanted to hear. I want to make sure that even though he's taking reps, I can ask questions, and the questions and the answers I get are educated answers about what we're doing offensively based on the look that he sees. So those repetitions, those meetings, and that communication, those are the things that gives our quarterbacks and myself the opportunity to communicate well and have a clear understanding of what we're doing offensively. And it makes us very, very efficient for what we do out on the field. So when it comes to Saturday, he always feels like Coach, this is easy because they're just giving us the same look. We're looking at the same thing. I said, okay, so this is what they're doing. Now, if they come back and they start giving us this, then we'll adjust, and then you'll have the other guys open. It's like so, and that's how we do it, and it works for us.
Coach, in the practice segments you put together, what do you guys maybe do that's a little bit unique, that's different, or is it, hey, we kind of do it like everybody else in America does it?
Well, I don't think we do anything special. I think I kind of maybe spoke about this last year. I can't remember, but we do this thing in practice where we call it's our 1-minute offense. And depending on the day, some days it's a 5-minute period, and some days it is a 10-minute period. And what this does is it gives me an opportunity to work the ones, the twos, and the threes, especially when it's a 10-minute period. Based on that day, Keith, we have so many concepts that we run for that day. And in 1-minute offense, the ball moves from the 20 to the 40 to the other 40 and then to the 20. So each quarterback gets 4 reps, all right? And the ball is spotted where the ball lies. So if you catch the ball on the right hash, they keep it on the right hash. So what we're doing in this drill is we're teaching our entire offense the play is run and everybody sprints to the ball, okay? And not only that, what I think is kind of unique for us, I don't call the plays for this particular drill. What I do is I tell our quarterbacks, these are the plays that you have for the day. These are the plays that you call. Now, you go out there and you execute them. And at the line of scrimmage, they are calling plays. That is another thing that I feel like we do that allows our quarterbacks to take some ownership into what they're doing offensively. So every quarterback gets some reps. All 3 groups get reps. We're going extremely fast. All I'm doing on the side is in a loud voice saying, hey, tempo, tempo, tempo. That's all I'm preaching. Tempo. Hey, we're moving too slow. Tempo. Speed it up. Faster. Tempo. That's all I do. As they're doing that, as soon as they come off and the next quarterback goes on, I can communicate quickly. And what it does is for us, it simulates the game situation for our quarterbacks. It simulates game communication between the quarterbacks and myself in between series. And it also gives them ownership into, I know what I'm looking at. Well, our defense is playing cover 3 every time. So out of these plays, I'm calling this. Or they're playing cover 4, so I'm calling this. They were playing a lot of man, and in 3 plays they played man, so this is why I call these things. Okay, good. So that's a part of the teaching that we do here at Franklin, and it's something that works for us, and it helps us on Saturdays.
Coach, I really like that concept. That drill is that, as I understand it, it seems like you're running that one against your own defense. You guys are not running against the scout.
Not against the scout. It's against our defense. It's good on good, and we are going with extremely fast tempo. And it not only does it help us offensively, it helps our defense because they got to hurry up and get lined up because we're going fast. Mm-hmm. You know, as soon as the ball is snapped, the ball is completed, or we run the ball, it doesn't matter if they stop us for 2 yards and the ball's on the right hash. We are sprinting 20 yards, and we're lining up on the hash, and when the whistle blows, we are snapping the football. So everybody's got to get lined up. Quarterback's got to think. Everybody's got to get lined up quickly. Defense got to get lined up. If they're not lined up, we're snapping the football.
Yeah, that's a great concept, and I've done that, not like that in that drill, but a lot of times for me it was our 2-minute drill on we typically would do it on Thursdays. After maybe the first couple times we installed it, I would turn that over to the quarterbacks, and I think what it allowed me to see too was in what they're calling, what are they most comfortable doing? And, I think you had a great feel with your number 1 guy, but 2, and I love that you guys get 3 involved. What do they feel most comfortable with? Because I think it kind of helps you if that situation comes up, that now, you can move in a direction that he's going to be comfortable in there too, because you know the things he likes.
Absolutely, because, I tell our coaching staff all the time, with our starting quarterback, we can run anything in our offense because he's comfortable with everything because he's seen it, he's done it, he understands it. With our second guy, there's not a ton of drop-off in terms of understanding what to do, where to go, but there's a comfort level with me saying I feel better by watching him and having work with him that maybe I won't call this, but I might be able to call some quarterback runs a little bit more with him because he's a little bit more athletic. And then, vice versa with the threes and the fours moving forward. So it's a great drill for us. It gives us an opportunity to really develop our guys and find out what they can and what they cannot do. And it's just a really, really good drill.
Coach, let me ask you, this is a tough question, a little bit different type of question, but if Coach Leonard said, hey, I want you to really just work on this one concept today, and let's say this is day one of camp, I want you to work on your best concept, Coach, and that's all you're going to run today. What's that play for you guys?
Well, that play would be that would be our mesh play. We call it 92 here, and I'm a firm believer that it doesn't matter if it's man or if it's zone, I'm going to find somebody that's going to be open on that play. And just to give you an idea, I was joking around one time with our players, and I said, okay, so here's what we're going to do. In one of our games this year, I don't know which one, I said, I'm going to have one drive, and I'm going to call all pass plays, and I'm going to call it 92. I'm going to call it out a different formation. The beauty of that play is if I want to run it out of no backs, I can run it. If I want to run it out of 10 personnel, I can run it. If I want to run it out of 20 personnel, I can run it. If I want to run it out of 21 personnel or 22 personnel, we can run that play. So just about every single formation, that you could think of, we can run that play. They thought I was crazy when I said that. So one of our games, I called that play for 6 straight times in 6 different formations, and we completed it every time, and we ended up scoring a touchdown. So if it was anything, it would be 92. It would be our mesh concept.
And I know, Coach, you would probably agree that the key to that, the key to being able to be successful with that out of all those different formations and different looks is your guys understand probably deeply the fundamentals that go along with that play. They're not out there necessarily just running the lines like robots. They understand how those things work versus all the different things that they might see from the defense.
Absolutely. I can tell you this. When I first introduced the concept and how we were going to run it and the way I wanted it ran, we were robots. We didn't understand it. And it wasn't until getting in practice and getting it on film a little bit better and understanding, saying, hey, if you keep running right there, you're going to run it right into that linebacker and he's going to take you out. So sit in the hole. Why are you sitting right there? It's man coverage. Don't you see the other guy following the other guy? The guy's following you, chasing. So mesh and climb. Or quarterback, throw a corner on that. So that is the one drill in practice every day. We take 5 minutes, and that's it. Because I don't feel like we need to work on it more than 5 minutes, but 5 minutes every single day in practice, we work on it, and we do it out of, like in our 3 days, day one, it'll be all 2-back formations. The second day, it'll be all 10 personnel and no back formations. And then on the third day, we run it out of all of those formations. But we go so quick because everybody gets an opportunity to get reps at it because we have every quarterback that's throwing the football. So everybody's catching the ball in that drill. So as soon as the first group goes, the quarterbacks are rotating. The next group is stepping up based on the formation, and the ball is snapped, and we're going. So it's the only drill that we do every day in practice. I enjoy the concept.
Coach, as I think about it, that I probably knew the answer before you gave it. Being a Kentucky Wildcat, that has to be your answer, I think, right? You're going to run the mesh.
Well, that's because we're talking about passing. We ain't talking about running the football, so I don't have any choice. You're not giving me any choice, Keith.
Coach,
but yeah, you are right.
With RPO obviously becoming a big part of offensive football, how much does that play a part in your offense?
We had about 4 different RPO concepts. I just kind of felt like, based on the personnel that we had and the way our quarterback runs RPOs, I just didn't think in terms of the run action. He's more of a gunslinger. So more often than not, when he's not supposed to throw it, he was going to throw it. So we weren't necessarily an unbelievably high-level RPO team. However, we were very efficient with our RPOs this year. So we only had about 4 concepts, and they worked for us. We had 2 of them one off of inside zone, one off of mid zone, one off of power, and one off of pin and pull.
Coach, with those coming into your offense, and I'm not sure how many years you've done that now, has it changed any of your mentality as a play caller, knowing that sometimes you could call a play that is either going to be a run or a pass?
No, it doesn't change my mentality at all. For me, RPOs is one of those things that when I'm talking about trying to put points on the board, I'm always looking for matchups. So I go into some games saying I don't like any of the matchups that we have for RPOs, so I might not call them. And then I might come into a game and say, every time we put the ball in the belly, watch the linebackers. They are flying to the line of scrimmage. They are flying downhill. Well, that to me tells me that we need to RPO them. So there's been some games where I didn't call one RPO the whole game. And then there were other games where I might have called 8 or 9, maybe 10 RPOs for that game. For me, it just depends on what that defense is presenting. There were games where I remember one particular game where I went into the game saying, we're not going to run any RPOs because I just don't like the matchup. Mm-hmm. And then for a second half adjustment, we ended up running the RPO off a zone because we felt like it was a easier matchup for us to lock our backside tackle on and not have our quarterback read the defensive end for zone read and just RPO the linebacker. And it turned out to be an easy fix for us. And it was actually, that's the beauty of what we do offensively, because it's so uniform. It's steady. It's consistent. Our quarterback came in and said, Coach, can we just lock the backside tackle on and let me RPO the backside linebacker, because I'm not getting a good read off of this defensive end because I'm not exactly sure what he's doing. He's kind of in between. So one time I gave it and he tackled me. One time I kept it, I should have gave it. And one time I gave it and I should have kept it. So I'm kind of confused by it. So can we just RPO the linebacker and lock him on? Absolutely. That's communication. So we made that, and we ended up scoring 2 touchdowns off of RPO. You know what I'm saying? Right. So that's just a simple communication. So I like RPOs. I think you got to have – I don't believe that you run them every single play. I know some people that's like their bread and butter. They RPO everything. Mm-hmm. I don't RPO everything, a few plays here and there.
Coach, obviously in 2017 you were able to – bring your offense to the top. Number 1 passing offense, number 1 in total offense. It's easy to say, man, we got it going, everything's working. But, the best coaches out there look and see, what's next? How does it fit into what I'm doing? Where maybe do we need to evolve with personnel, et cetera? So for you, what types of things are you looking at as you approach 2018?
Well, if you don't mind, let me go backwards just a little bit. We had the number 1 total offense in the nation, and I think the reason why we did was because we made a very significant point of emphasis to run the football. The previous year, we didn't even have 1,000 yards rushing. We probably rushed for about 86 yards a game, and a lot of 2-yard games, a lot of 0-yard games, a lot of 5 here, 2 here, -2 here. So this year, there was an emphasis with the offensive line, with the running backs, with the receivers on the outside blocking to run the football. And because of that, I think we ended up, we were still 111th in the nation, but we ran for 160 yards a game. By my calculation, that's double the amount of yardage that we had the year before. So going into this year, we're losing some talent. So my biggest point of emphasis is coming into the spring and finding out who's going to be my starting quarterback, because there's going to be a little competition there, which is good. I like it. And who are going to be the guys that got a little bit of playing time last year or got a little bit of playing time the last couple years, and who is going to step up to the plate and make plays. And I think that's going to be our biggest point of emphasis because they all know the offense. The offense is not going to change. Now, I am a person as a coordinator that some of the things that we did well this year, maybe in the passing game, we may not be able to do as well, but there may be some other things in the passing game that we do well that we didn't necessarily do well this year. So I'm interested to go in personnel-wise, understanding what we have that is coming back, the class that we're recruiting right now, to see who we bring in and just see who steps up and see who's going to be our playmakers and then go from there. Not changing the integrity of what we do, but just finding out who our playmakers are. And once we find out who our playmakers are, I'll be able to easily put a plan together to see if we can make our offense go again.
Coach, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast again and sharing your thoughts on offensive football. Certainly would like to wish you guys the best of luck in 2018 and keep things moving forward.
All right, Keith, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you again for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate your support. Please follow all we're doing on Twitter at Coach K. Grabowski, as well as check out our new website, coachingcoordinator.com. As I mentioned in the introduction, new episodes, new sponsors coming soon in November, and a lot of great things planned for the podcast. So stay tuned and stay listening. Good luck this weekend.